Hello, and welcome to Wine with Wita, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Wita. I'm a paediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wine with Wita. Today, I'm really excited to have an amazing mother on to discuss her personal journey with her child's difficulties and his diagnosis. One of the wonderful things of being a speech pathologist is that I work with amazing families and I build beautiful relationships with parents. And there are sometimes just the ones I just connect with, and everything we talk about is funny, engaging, but we just communicate the same language. And when I met this amazing mother, we just clicked, and every session we go through so much laughter. We share tears. There's been tears along the way and frustration, but every session is always filled with so much laughter, joy. And you could just see it just with how her son is just always engaged in the treatment too. So tonight, I'm so excited to have the most gorgeous woman named Renee Bell. Hi, Renee. Welcome to Wine with
Hello.
Wita.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. What are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking red wine because that's all I could find.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Cheers. Now, as I said to you before, I had a story. I'm a white drinker. I'm a Sauv Blanc girl. But the other day, my girls left something in the fridge, and just mum in a morning rush mode, I attempted to close the fridge. And as I closed the fridge, the object that they left in the fridge bounced off my wine section. And at 7:35 in the morning, 4 glasses of gorgeous quality white wine just popped up and crashed all over the tiles. And in that moment, reflecting back, yes, I did many wrong things just by losing my mind. But then I went from the concept of gentle parenting to being demonized within like 30 seconds. And it's like, what the hell? So tonight I'm
Me
enjoying
on
a
a
red,
daily
which I
basis.
never really do. I think many parents go through that, even though we don't like to voice it, but it's really nice to show that we're all losing our mind at the same time.
Definitely.
So Renee, we met, I would say, over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, just over
About that
2 years
now.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, just over 2 years ago. And you approached me with your gorgeous son, Nick, who has been one of my favorite clients lately because he has just flourished so well to treatment. So tell me about Nick, his diagnosis, and we'll dig deep after that.
Okay, so Nick is now 5 years old. He's about to turn 6 next month. And when he was about, I'd say, 2 years old or 2.5 years old, he was diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 1, which I had never heard of before.
What is that? Neurofibrosis. How do you say it? Sorry?
Neurofibromatosis type 1. So it's NF1.
Mhm.
And so what it is, it's a mutation in the gene in one of the chromosomes, I think it's chromosome 17, where he doesn't, and I don't know the technical terms, but his body doesn't have the ability to stop tumours from growing. So,
Mhm.
and more than likely benign, but there are different types. He has, we've found a few things. I don't know if you want to go into that now or we can
Yeah, I do.
dig into it
Yeah.
later, but
S
so what we found, so we first found it because Nick had a whole heap of cafe au lait spots, which just look like little coffee stains on the skin, which we initially thought were birthmarks.
Was he born with it?
He was, but because he was
Mm.
jaundiced, it wasn't something that was noticeable from the beginning. And I
Mhm.
did notice them as he was getting older, that he was getting more and more. So being any typical human, any typical mum, I did the Google deep dive,
Yeah.
found myself down a rabbit hole, and that was one of the things that came up the most, because anything more than, I think it's 6, is a symptom of NF1.
And
So
in that moment when you saw the word tumor pop up or benign tumor,
it was
how
like
did you feel in
everything
that
had
moment?
left my body. All the blood had rushed out of my body. My heart just dropped. It had to be, because I think it's weird, but mother's instinct, you just know when something's not right. And in that moment, I was like, this is what he has. Even though I hadn't seen a doctor, I hadn't gone to the pediatrician yet, there wasn't anything else to suggest that he had this besides those cafe au
Mhm.
lait spots at this point in time.
Mm, mm,
So I did end up taking him to the pediatrician. Actually, no. So I initially had taken him to my GP. And the first time I went, I raised the cafe au lait spots. And at this point, I had seen the NF1 through Google.
mhm,
And my doctor, being an alarmist and someone that I had gone to since I was a baby, kind of
mhm,
assured me that it's all okay, nothing to worry about. So I kind of felt a little bit better, but still that gut feeling, there's
mhm.
something wrong.
Something's off, yeah.
Um, Something's off. So I went again, same story. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Third time, he said to me, this is the third time you've asked. I don't think that there's an issue, but go see your pediatrician.
Why was he apprehensive to it? Like, even though
I think
your
it's
head's
just,
thinking it's NF1, yeah.
to be honest, I didn't, and that's probably my fault. I didn't say to him, I think it's NF1. And
Mhm.
in fairness as well, not everybody knows about it. And not all doctors, unfortunately, know
Are
about it.
aware of it. How old was Nick at this stage?
So I first noticed the cafe au lait. So I was going to the doctor for the immunizations. So it was
Yeah.
so what is it?
The
I think
6
it's like
week and then
the
8,
sixth
yeah, okay.
week, then, each time I had gone, and each time I had gone, he would also book in a separate appointment just to go through his growth milestones and all of that stuff. And that's where I'd raise it. But after the third time, he's like, look, just go see a pediatrician. It's obviously something you're concerned about, which I did. So when
Mhm.
I went to the pediatrician, I pointed out the cafe au lait spots. He then said, have you noticed anything else? Now, there was a few little lumps behind his ear, but I wasn't too concerned about those because my oldest son had those till he was about 2 years old.
Mm.
And they were just swollen lymph nodes. They weren't anything to be concerned about. And the doctors had told me back then they'll probably go by the age of 2. So I kind of put that to being the same thing that my oldest had. So I didn't think one had to do with the other. And when I went to the pediatrician, I showed him that, and he said, the cafe au lait spots with the lumps behind his ear, I'm suspicious. He goes, but before I say what I think it is, he goes, what have you Googled? I said NF1.
Wow.
Yeah, and I said NF1. He goes, that's what I'm suspicious of. He goes, but we won't know unless you get a proper diagnosis. Um, at that point, though, he did want me to go for an ultrasound on the lumps behind Nick's ear, which we did. I saw Nick in complete distress, freaked out, and I was like,
Mm,
I'm not doing any more testing. I shut down. I went into denial. Um, Also, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but typical WOG family,
mm,
there's nothing
mm,
wrong.
mm, mm.
It's all going to be
Yeah,
okay, and everything kind of
yeah.
gets brushed under the rug. Um,
How old was Nick at this stage? At what
he was,
immunisation point was this?
I think he was probably maybe the 18 month.
Okay. So at this point, you knew there was a suspicion of NF1.
Yeah.
You have a close another professional telling you, "We think it's this now."
hmm
Despite having that confirmation that it is likely, did you get some sort of relief in that news, or did you think, "Oh gosh, this is real. What does this mean for my son?"
I felt like the world was ending. Um, I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm not someone who stresses. I'm not someone who has anxiety. I'm not someone who freaks out over the smallest thing. I'm probably one of the most laid back people you'll ever meet. But in that moment, I just felt like what everybody talks to me about when they talk about anxiety attacks and panic attacks and all the rest of it. So I kind of just went into this hole, couldn't get myself out. But yeah, I honestly sat on it for a really long time. I didn't go. So the pediatrician did give me a referral to go get the diagnosis done. I didn't go for a really long time.
How long is
I
long?
think it was about 3 at this point, or maybe 2.5 at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 18 months is when you found the news, and then
Mhm.
around 3,
Probably
you
two
went
and a
and took charge
half.
for the ultrasound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I ask
so
why? Why the hesitation when you knew initially what was
I
going on?
think it was. Uh, it's hard to explain. I think I just went into this state of denial.
Mhm.
And it probably wasn't the best thing for my son, but I didn't know how to deal with it.
Mm. Mm.
And if I don't know, then,
Yeah.
what you don't know can't hurt you. Um,
Yeah.
so then the genetic clinic at Liverpool contacted me, and
Oh,
they said we have a referral. You haven't come to see us. Did you want to come and see us? And I said, oh, not really. And they're like, okay, well, you can come. We can have a consultation, and if you want to get the testing done, we can. If you don't, you don't. Some parents choose to do the testing, and other parents just choose not to. I said, okay. So we
at this
went.
point at this point with Nick, was his development, say, with his gross motor, walking, talking, and other movements, were they impacted at this stage for you to think, "Okay, something
Not.
else is going on"?
No, so again, and I know you shouldn't, but I did compare the talking with my firstborn. He didn't talk
Yeah.
till he was 3 years old, and it was literally
Mm.
overnight. So we went from
Mhm.
one word to sentences. So I wasn't too concerned about the talking. Um, the only other thing that I was looking at was Nick didn't really walk till he was about 13 months old, but my first one walked at 9 months. So that was the only thing that I thought was
Yeah.
weird. But I was also like, well, other kids are walking later than that and they're fine. So I was kind of
Mm,
just,
mm,
I was confused. Um,
mm. Naturally,
yeah.
yeah.
So then I ended up going to the genetic clinic. They pretty much started pointing out physical features that I couldn't see in Nick. That he had a short neck, that he had a low back hairline, that he had a small nose, that he had little creases under his eyes. And at this point, I was just, what do you mean? My kid is
Yeah.
fine. He doesn't. I can't see anything. And then I started to freak out, and I used to go to people, even just people in the street, be like, "Do you think my son looks weird?" Because it was just
Mm,
I couldn't see what they could see, and obviously they're looking at other things. But anyway, so after that, then they kind of sat me down and they're like, "Do you want to do the testing?" So we did decide to do the testing, and the testing was done in Alabama. It took about 6 weeks.
wow.
So we did have a choice whether we get the testing done in Perth or Alabama. We did choose Alabama just because obviously America's population is larger. They have a larger clinic there. They
Yeah.
also have a larger percentage of people that have NF. So we did that. The diagnosis came back that yes, he had
Oh,
NF.
so you didn't fly there, they just sent the
No,
testing
no.
over
They
there?
just sent the blood. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Um,
because like what you said, there's a larger population and more data to compare to because it's such a rare genetic disorder, yeah? What's the statistics
it's
for that?
it's one in I think 2.5 to 3,000 a day.
Wow, yeah, it is quite small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
So you got the results and
so after that, it was kind of they just tell you it's monitoring. You can't do anything about it now. They obviously didn't want to keep putting him under to do testing. It was just, the worst part was, yes, your son has this, but there's nothing you can do about it, pretty much. Then
How
that's
did you
when they
feel
also,
when they said that?
I was kind of relieved because I knew what it was that was wrong with him. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you've told me what's wrong with him, and I guess first instinct is, how do I fix it? And I couldn't fix it, and you can't fix it. And so with that, they told us that what's quite common with NF is learning delays, which would be speech. There could possibly be autism, ADHD. Not necessarily that he would have it, but it was a high possibility. And by that stage, he wasn't really talking or even trying. I think it was maybe like sounds, and we could work it out, but nobody else knew what he was really saying. And I was told to engage a speech therapist and an occupational therapist at that point, which is what I did.
So at this stage, Nick was about 3 now?
It was about
Or
three and a
just
half.
about to turn 3? 3
Yeah.
and 3.5. So, obviously, that just leaves the door open for you to access speech and a world that is foreign to you, as well
Yeah.
as occupational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how you approached that, and then how did you navigate the NDIS path?
So the NDIS path, my paediatrician pretty much told me to apply for it straight away. He wrote me
Mhm.
the letter, his recommendation. We got the funding approved, and I just started looking up speech therapist. I started Googling occupational therapists. I didn't know what
How
I
was
was looking
that?
for. It was overwhelming, and if I'm completely honest, the whole NDIS scheme, as helpful as it is, also really stops you in your path because it creates ridiculous waiting lists. You kind of just have to go with who's got availability. You don't know if they're going to be good. You don't know if they're just there to take your money. Sorry, but it
Mm.
is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's how I felt with my first speech therapist. I felt that she did nothing for him. It was kind of just a tick the box. It was a weekly tick the box for her, or for that company. And I found that the bigger companies are a little bit more just tick the box, move on. And I wasn't really getting results in the slightest.
Did you express your not
I did.
expectations, but your needs? Yeah. Yeah,
I
and how did
did.
you do
And
that?
then, well, they actually contacted me for feedback, and I kind of went to town on the feedback. Um, and at that point, they told me that they would provide me with a different therapist. And again, I had my name on waiting lists everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was 18 months here, 24 months here. It was ridiculous. Um, and then by the time they were able to find me a different speech therapist, I found you. Um,
Yay.
and
Wita
that was a
came.
blessing. Yeah, Wita came,
Oh,
and
thank
it's been
you.
amazing since. And like you said before, we have just seen him grow and grow and grow, and just the progress that he's made has been ridiculous. For a kid that was ripping out just car, pop, wow, it's gone to sentences, asking questions. There's been a real big change in him. So
Can
thank
you
you.
just tell the listeners what you're welcome, but can you just tell the listeners without swearing what
Hmm.
you tell me every week when I say, "How is he this week?" What's your lovely sentence that you always tell me? You just
I don't
won't
know. I'm pretty sure I swear every single time.
shut the he just won't shut the hell up every single
He
time.
will
It's
not
like,
shut the F up.
well,
Yes. So it's
which
amazing.
is a blessing. Yeah, because we
100% a
wanted him
blessing.
to,
I wanted
and
him to
he's
get to
such a
that point.
darling.
And he's
And
a
now
real
he's there.
little, yeah, he's a real little terrorist. He's got the best personality. He's just, look, he makes me proud of him every single day. He's just,
And that's one wonderful And that's one
yep.
thing I love about being a therapist, that you see a child at their worst because they're
Hmm.
so angry and frustrated that they're not getting their needs met. And I remember when I met Nick for the first time, he was adamant that things had to go his way and didn't want a
Yeah.
bar of me. And I think at that time he was using only single words. And I remember you were sitting there, your mother-in-law was sitting there, everyone was just watching, like, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm on parade here. Everyone's sitting there.
What's
And
she
I
gonna
thought,
do?
what's this we've had bad luck before. What's this chick gonna do? And then, yeah, we took the idea of following his lead,
Hmm.
engaging in his interests, and one thing just led to another. And he melts my heart every time, that gorgeous little
He's,
boy. So
he's a
thank you for bringing
sweetheart.
him into my life, because he's just a blessing.
No, thank you for
Okay,
coming
so
into
then
our lives.
we've Oh, you're an angel. Thank you.
I
So
know.
then you're accessing OT, occupational therapy, and the journey
Hmm.
of Nick and his growth has been wonderful.
It
Then
has.
let's discuss the hiccups that you've had along the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll dig into it a bit after.
So probably I think it was the end of last year, or towards the end of last year, I did notice a lump at the back of his leg. And I usually do the pat down after every bath because obviously I know with this it's his body doesn't stop tumor growth, so I'm constantly feeling for something or whatever it may be. And by chance on that day, his leg was completely extended straight, and I felt a lump at the back of his knee. Where if I put pressure on it, he would tell me that it hurt. So I just went into meltdown mode, panic mode. Obviously, I knew what it was, and I had gone. So I'd just gone to a GP at that point because obviously you can't just step into a pediatrician's office. And we
Mhm.
went and got an ultrasound. Um, at that point, and again, it's whether or not whoever's looking at Nick or assessing Nick is aware of NF or what it may be. And he's done this ultrasound, and all I heard was the word malignant. Um,
Right.
and again, just went into panic mode. So then I've gone back to my GP. She's like, just go straight to your pediatrician. I've gone to my pediatrician. He's like, we're going for an MRI. So we went for the MRI. We had to put Nick under. And thinking when I felt the lump, maybe I felt like it was about that big. And when we got the results back from the MRI, we found out that it was actually something that's called a plexiform neurofibroma, which the best way to describe it is that's the head of an octopus. And we found out that it extended 14 centimeters down his leg and 14 and a half centimeters up his leg.
So
Um,
in terms of centimeters, how much did you actually think it was, the size?
oh,
Because
like,
people, when you say it was like
what's
this,
that?
people can't, like, what, 4
Maybe
centimeters? 4
like
centimeters or 5
4
centimeters?
to 5 centimeters.
Yeah,
So when we got the news that it's about 28 centimeters, it was like,
Renee.
what?
And he's
But
short. Mm.
yeah, so it pretty much took up his whole leg. Um, but, and again, you look for something to just, I guess you don't want it to be worst case scenario. So we heard the word benign and we were like, okay, what do we need to do now? And then again, it's just a monitoring game. It's day by day. You can't
How
do anything about it unless it starts to cause him pain. And again, the only time it causes him any pain is if I push on it. But him running around, throwing himself into walls, completely fine. But if it does get to that point where alter his walking or whatnot, we may have to operate. But the thing with the plexiform neurofibromas is because they wrap themselves around the nerve, you can't take it all out, which means it grows back.
Mm.
And I don't want to keep cutting into him. But there has been some movement on a medication that's been released, which is specifically for plexiform neurofibromas, which can stop it in its tracks, can also decrease the size of the tumour. So there's that hope. I'm not at that point of putting him on that medication just yet, just because side effects and whatnot, I need to weigh up my options. But it's a good thing that that's there, because the
So
last
there's
thing
an
that I want to
option
do
there.
is to keep cutting into him to remove this tumour.
And what would the
But
medication do? Shrink it?
shrink it.
Yeah.
Shrink it and pretty much
And
stop
how
them from growing in their tracks, sorry.
and is this and you can access it here, or do you have to go overseas for it?
Yes, so it was something that cost, I think it was like $150,000 to $200,000 a year. It's recently been put on the PBS, and I think it's about $30 to $40.
Wow.
So yeah, it's something that's available, I think, for kids and then up to 18 years old. But at least that's something that's there that we can access if need be. But for now, it's just monitoring and see what happens. More recently, Nick has to have his eyes checked quite regularly. After a certain point, we changed his checkups to yearly. Not the last appointment, but the appointment before, we had to go back to 6 monthly because the eye doctor found a discoloration on his optic nerve. We don't know what it is, but we said we'd leave it, like everything else, monitor. He went back last week. We do need to get an MRI on his head, just to make sure that it's not anything serious. Because again, with NF, they can grow tumours on their optic nerve, and the, I guess, effects aren't great. So it's been fun.
You know what I'm feeling here, Renee? I keep hearing like it's like a race that you're running. It's like you want to say ready, set, go. Like ready, set, okay, we've got the diagnosis, we know the step, and then you run, and then there's an obstacle. And so next, now you've just told me about the eye and the possibility of something happening there.
Yeah.
Then you run a bit more, then you get, oh, okay, we need to look into it to see if he's got ADHD. And so at that point, for me, if my child was going through that, like, what the hell? Like, how much can a 5-year-old tolerate?
I don't know how much a
What's your
5-year-old can tolerate. I don't like. I feel so bad for him to have to take him to doctor appointments all the time, and he just looks at me and goes, "Doctor, again?" Like, and your heart breaks. But you can't do anything about it. And unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where I'm scared to go to the doctor, or I'm scared to go for a checkup, because each time we go, we get some sort of news. I want there to be a day where I go see something and they say, nope, all good. That would be an amazing day. But you really can't. You can't predict it. It is day by day, and you just deal with what you're given.
Yeah. And it's amazing how Nick is the way Nick is, just
Yeah.
because he just endures so much and he's so resilient that he's like he just brushes it over his head like, "Yep,
Yeah.
I'm on with it. Just keep me entertained, and
That
I'll show
kid
you how
has been
strong I am."
given the perfect personality to deal with whatever is going to be thrown his way. Anything that will be thrown his way, he has the perfect personality for it. And he does not give a flying beep
Beep, beep,
for
beep, beep.
anything. And it's perfect for him.
Yeah. I love him, I love
So,
it. Yeah, that's so
yeah,
right.
definitely. But
So, let's go back a few steps with how you said you went into a dark hole and you were in denial, and
yeah,
we've spoken about this before, and everyone telling you, "Don't worry, it's fine, it is what it is." And as you said before, being in a very multicultural family, your background's Greek,
yeah,
so we can say "wog" on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being Middle Eastern myself, there's no racism here where we can say the word.
Definitely.
Myself coming even from a Middle Eastern family and you coming from a Greek background, I get the stigma that's attached to disability.
Mhm.
I get the toxic positivity that they mean well by saying, "It's okay,
They
it's all
definitely
right,
do.
he'll grow out of it, he'll grow
Yes,
out of
he'll
it, he'll be
grow out of it.
fine."
Mhm.
So tell me what irked you the most about what people would say, and what advice could you give families going through the early diagnosis, not only just of NF, but any disability, with how they can deal with that unnecessary comments made by family members? It doesn't even have to be from a multicultural background. I think all cultures do this, but I feel some amplify it just a tad.
Look, I don't think you're ever gonna get the people that bite their tongue and won't give you their 2 cents. I think you're always gonna get that regardless. I think by not so much shutting them down, but if you need to explain it to them, this is where we're at. We don't know where we're going with it. We don't know where it's going to end up. We have to take it day by day, but for today, he's fine. That's the point I've gotten to.
So what were
Um,
you like in the beginning?
at the beginning,
Because
it
that was very
was,
elegant of you. That was very elegant of you, Renee, what you just
yeah,
said
that's
there.
because we're on
Like,
here.
that was
No. So I think initially when people used to say it to me, and hearing, I used to get it all. I used to get, this is God's plan. I used to get, you're given what you can handle. Um, and I think that's the one that really pissed me off the most. It's like, you're given what you can handle. Yesterday, I couldn't handle shit. So don't throw me this.
Mhm.
But again, you don't really realize what you can handle until you're thrown something.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to. I guess I don't know what advice to give because I wouldn't know how to stop it. Um,
Did your circle change? Did your circle change so you can be around people that just got it?
um, I would say yes.
Mm.
But again, the people that would say it are the people that you can't really remove from your circle, and they do not mean
No.
harm in the slightest. That's just their mentality.
Yeah.
But there are people that, yeah, I probably don't have the same relationship with them. Um, just because you don't want to hear it. And like some days
Yeah.
when you're in a really, like when you're having a really shit day and you hear that, you want to throw things. Um,
Mm.
so I guess it depends on your mood as well as to how it's received.
Mm,
But
mm. Were you offered any, support for yourself, for your own mental health, or how to deal with it, or you just soldiered on as you normally do?
I think I just soldiered on. It wasn't something that
Mm.
to be honest, I didn't even have time. I didn't have time to
Yeah.
be able to go and see someone for myself. I work full time. I have an older son. Between Nick's therapies, doctor's appointments, I don't have time. So
Mm,
just deal with
mm.
it. Both Harris and I, my husband and I, we just had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What would you tell someone going through a diagnosis of their child's rare genetic disorder? What's one word of advice you would tell them?
one word, that's a hard one.
Or like not one
Patience.
word, but like one
Maybe
advice?
patience and take it day by day. The worst thing you can do, and to be honest, I'm guilty of doing it myself, but the worst thing you can do is put yourself and put your head in that worst case scenario because chances are it won't be the worst case scenario and everything might turn out okay. Um, so I think the best thing to do, especially with my son's diagnosis and anything like that, is to take it day by day. You don't know what's coming tomorrow.
Yep.
There's no point putting
Mhm.
yourself into a hole because if you're in that hole, you need to be able to pick yourself up out of it to deal with what's coming next.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for
So
that. That's so true. You have to just keep focusing on what you can control at the moment and follow the advice of the healthcare professionals and
yeah,
honestly, day by day. And one thing you mentioned earlier is that it doesn't seem like as if Nick was so bothered by it as much as by you, like just as much as
no,
you. So
it
just look at
affects
him
me. It
as an
doesn't affect
example.
Nick in the
Yeah.
slightest. He couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But me, I give a
No.
shit. So,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for
He
that. I'm so grateful for that, that he's not affected by it. Like, he's not at school yet. I don't know what's to come, but I can't, like, I can't stress about that. I just can't because I don't
mm,
know. He might go to school and he might be completely fine, and I've stressed myself out for nothing.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's just see what happens tomorrow.
Exactly, exactly. Now you mentioned that word school. Now many parents are sending their children off to school that have special needs and they're very
Mhm.
anxious with not controlling the environment or unpredictability of how will your child respond. It's very different to daycare. How have you been coping with the uncertainty of how he will cope at school? Or even entering the education system, how's that been?
I'm freaking out. Um, mainly
Sorry, I
because
apologize. I don't mean to laugh. It's just I know you, Renee, that's why I'm having a giggle. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I really want to say. But yeah, I am definitely freaking out. I don't know what to expect. I've been taking him to Head Start programs just to kind of get him used to the environment, get him used to a routine. Um,
Structure, familiarity.
some
Yeah.
kind of structure, yeah. So we've been told academically, he's completely fine. He's probably doing better than a lot of the other kids, the issue being his focus. And I knew that that was going to be the issue because he is a bright kid.
Yeah.
Um, so that's where I'm nervous. I don't want my kid to be the one that's disrupting the whole class and one kid's trying to concentrate and my kid's in their face being like, hello. So again, you can't think too much about it because you don't know what's going to happen. He could go to school and he could be fine. I do think, and he hasn't been diagnosed yet, but I do think that there is an element, or there's definitely ADHD there. And we have
Why?
had him. There's no focus. There's just no
Yeah.
focus. Um,
Mm.
he also does have. So he's been diagnosed with level 2 autism. Um,
Autism?
yeah, but they have also told us that because it seems like he does have that ADHD and it's been untreated, the autism diagnosis is probably worse than what it would be if the ADHD was treated.
Say that
So
again. Autism would be worse if the ADHD was
his
treated
autism
or wasn't
traits,
treated?
his
Mhm.
autism traits are probably worse because his ADHD has not been treated. So I
Okay,
think
yeah, I get
they're
that.
implying possibly
Can you give an
medication.
example?
Um, Probably Nick being able to. So Nick has his little stimming moments
Yeah.
where he's unable to regulate himself. Um, More so when he gets excited rather than anything else. But I think if it's not something that he's interested in, you've lost Nick. I'm losing
Mm.
my train of thought. Um, Let me start again. With Nick, it's if he's not interested, you're not getting anything out of him. If you're giving him something that he's super interested in, you've got all the attention in the world for however long you need it.
I'm gonna put in my little spill here. Now, I've been Nick's
Yeah,
speechie for about 2.5 years now, and engaging with Nick initially was challenging, if I were to say, but the minute I knew that little angel loves Thomas, loves trains, loves anything to do with transportation, loves anything to do with music, what else? Loves anything to do with eating.
yeah,
That's where my speech
Definitely.
therapy goes. So if any speech therapists, new graduates are listening, it's not about the toy, it's about how you can use a child's interest and intertwine it into the communication goals. And if I were to put anything to how we've been successful, it's in treatment, sorry, it's about understanding how I can use the concept of a train, but intertwine it into building vocabulary, adding, making his sentences longer, and even some social skill elements. And I feel that has been the deal breaker with Nick, just tapping into what brings him joy.
Yeah, even with if we practice simple addition, it's 2 trains plus 6 trains equals 8 trains. If you give him trains, he's telling you that answer, and I can tell you 100% of the time it is correct. I need Nick to sit down and write something. I have to get creative. We'll go and get the pebbles from the front yard, line them up into a train, and get him to write in texter on the pebbles. So long as it's something that interests him, he's fine. But if he's not interested, you've lost him. He's off with the fairies, and then that's when you see the stimming come out. That's when you see he's not focused on anything, so he becomes this little energizer bunny that runs from one side of the room to the other. He's throwing himself into walls. He's throwing himself into the couch, not dangerously.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how he is, and that's probably where I see the ADHD side of things with the focus. But
Yeah.
again, hasn't been
Yeah.
diagnosed yet.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting it.
So Nick's starting school next year with a diagnosis of NF1, level 2 autism, possibility of ADHD, learning difficulties, and language difficulties. Were you able to access additional support for him at school next year, or is that still in limbo at the moment?
That's still up in the air. It's still in limbo. We're trying.
Is he going in a special unit?
No. So he will be going mainstream
Mm.
with a teacher's aide.
Mhm.
But again, with the funding, we don't know, because it's a hard one, because we were initially told, when I had first taken him to the school, it was, you should get an additional diagnosis so that you're able to access funding, so that you're able to get Nick a teacher's aide. So you're telling me I need an additional diagnosis on top of his medical diagnosis, which, along with that medical diagnosis, it's pretty high chances that he's going to have autism and or ADHD, but I need to have that additional diagnosis. And that, it honestly rips me to pieces. Like, I knew that was there. You knew it was there. We both knew that there was autism there. We didn't know which level. But the fact that it was, you need to go get the autism diagnosis for him to get funding when he already had probably the worst diagnosis for me and for my world, it was, come on. But we got it, and then we're moving home, so we're looking at now a different public school, different catchment area, and then we're told, oh, you might not actually get funding. It's just all up in the air. So we don't
It's
know.
inconsistent. Yeah.
It's a very
The
inconsistent.
inconsistency of information. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the educators at the second public school wanted him in the Head Start program so that she could see for herself what she'd be dealing with. So who knows? We don't know where we're going yet. We're almost
Day
in
by
it.
day.
Still don't know. Day by day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Day by day. Hopefully something soon. Thank you. Renee, this has been such, for me, it's been fun because I know I've been working with you for such a long
Yeah.
time, but the detail you went in was so raw, real, and you were so vulnerable that many parents or any individual listening to this can understand or even connect with you with the complex nature of dealing with your child's diagnosis and the endless frustration of the inconsistent information. But what you've done here beautifully was just show my child has enjoyed so much, but he still shows up daily. My
Yeah.
child has gone through so much, but he teaches me how to be better, but also how to cope because I have to be there for him. And I feel that's a message that many parents need to hear, that regardless of all the, I can't swear, but all the crap that's thrown
Just
your
do
way,
it.
if he's
Yeah.
when I see, regardless of all the don't, Renee, don't. Regardless of all the shit that's been thrown your way, your
Yeah.
children teach you more than ever. And I actually had a client today that has a diagnosis of level 3 autism, and I mentioned to the mum, it's amazing how these children with special needs teach individuals how to be human, teach society how to actually interact. It's like they have this gorgeous innocence, children in general, but they have just this innocence about them where they're saying, hey, yeah, I've got needs, but I want you to come into my world. And I feel like
Yeah.
many individuals expect children to enter their world, but these
Mhm.
special children teach us, hey, we're just like you, but you need to enter our world. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful skill that these kids teach. And Nick taught me so much on how to enter a child world. And I hope many families understand that let's reduce this stigma of disability and understand that every individual has their own skills. And a
Yeah.
child isn't defined by their disability, but more their ability. Let's look at their ability
Definitely.
and enter their world because there's magic there.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
He's made me a better person. He's made our family better. He lights up everybody's world. He will make your day. He's a special kid. He's amazing.
And it makes me sad that I'm not going to see him
Yeah,
anymore.
well,
That makes
that's
me
on
really
you,
sad.
okay?
We'll talk later. We'll see what
Yeah.
we can
No
do. We'll
worries.
see what we
Yeah.
Well, Renee, thank you so much for sharing. Did you even drink, by the way? I didn't
No,
see you
I
have a
did,
glass. Did you have a
but
sip?
I'm a lightweight,
Oh,
so
I didn't see.
yeah, no, I took a couple there.
Sure. So
Here you go.
good on you. Good on you. So thank you so much for coming on Wine with Wita. So before we wrap up, I tell every guest this. Could you give me one word that you can apply to yourself, so you
Here we
could
go.
be a better version of your be a better version of yourself tomorrow?
Patience.
Patience?
Yeah, you
Why?
need patience. There's it goes hand in hand with day by day. So at the beginning, it was very much like, I need to know now. I need to know where it's going to end up. I need to know if he's going to have worst case scenario. I need to know. I just needed to know.
Mm.
And I had to take a step back and really, and it was speaking to other people who understood the diagnosis, who understood the disorder, who had experienced or who had even seen it, for them to tell me, you need to take this day by day, but in order to be able to take it day by day, you need to practice patience. Otherwise, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
Mm.
So I'm trying to be patient. I'm doing all right at it. I could be better. There's always room for
Doing
improvement.
fantastic.
But yeah, that's for me. That's for my life. That's what it needs.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
You know what else is intertwined with that? Letting go.
Well,
Letting
yeah,
go
you
and
you
reducing
can't
control.
control it.
Yeah.
You can't
No.
control it.
And putting your
So,
faith in the people that know to guide you.
well, that's right.
Renee, this has been such a fun interview. I loved it. It was beautiful. You added your gorgeous humor, your truth, your reality, and your humor, which I love about you. And I've loved this relationship we've built over something that was a challenge, but now it just blossoms every time. And it's
It
such a
does.
gorgeous, beautiful journey with you. So thank you for inviting me on. So everyone, thank you so much for joining Wine with Wita again. And I look forward to connecting you with another family member, another parent, or even a health professional on my next episode. Have a lovely evening. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Wita. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoy this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.